Have you ever felt that just that gnawing exhaustion, that feeling like you're constantly pushing, always overwhelmed, even when you're basically running on fumes?
Hmm.
It's like society just puts this massive pressure on us, glorifying the hustle, making overwork seem like the only way.
Yeah, it's relentless.
Well, today we're taking a different route, a needed detour maybe. We're doing a deep dive into Christine J. Reese's book, The Anti-Hustle Guide to Success: How to Achieve Your Goals Without Burning Out.
And the author starts with a really stark personal story, doesn't she?
She really does. It's quite jarring.
Yeah.
Collapsing, ending up in the ER.
After working until 3 a.m., just total burnout.
Yeah. It immediately tells you why this book, this whole conversation, is so vital right now.
Absolutely.
And that story, sadly, isn't unique. Burnout is, well, it's practically a global epidemic at this point. There was a Gallup study found that 76% of employees feel burnout at least sometimes.
76%. Wow. Yeah, and 28%, nearly a third, said they felt it very often or always. And this isn't just about feeling tired,
Right. Yeah.
There's actual medical research, like a study in the Journal of Occupational and Environmental Medicine, linking chronic burnout to really serious health problems. We're talking heart disease, stroke, depression, anxiety, even suicide, tragically.
That's heavy and bad for businesses too, presumably.
Definitely. Less productive workers, higher healthcare costs, more errors. It's a lose-lose situation, truly.
Yeah.
So our mission today with this deep dive is really to offer some guidance for you listening right now. How can you reach your goals without that burnout tax, without sacrificing your health, or your happiness, or just your general well-being?
Okay.
It's about finding a healthier alternative to that toxic hustle culture, helping you redefine success for yourself on your own terms and stepping onto a path that's more sustainable, more fulfilling, and honestly, more joyful.
That sounds like exactly what's needed, a breath of fresh air. So, okay, if hustle culture is the issue, the first big idea Reese puts forward is questioning what we're actually chasing. What does she really mean by redefining success?
Right. And it's not just semantics. The core idea here is that the usual markers, external praise, how much money you make, climbing the corporate ladder, they often don't lead to real, lasting satisfaction.
They can feel pretty empty sometimes.
Exactly. True success, the kind that sustains you, Reece argues, comes from inside. It's about living a life that feels meaningful because it lines up with your values. It's about finding joy along the way, nurturing relationships, making a positive impact that actually matters to you.
So it requires looking inward then.
Yes, definitely. It means consciously letting go of the societal expectations that often don't really serve who you are or what you truly want. It's a deliberate shift.
Okay, so redefining success is step one. How does the anti-hustle mindset build on that? Is it just about working less?
No, not necessarily less work, but different work, or rather working differently. It's absolutely not about rejecting hard work or ambition.
Hmm.
It's about making the hard work you do put in more effective, more aligned with your purpose. The anti-hustle mindset reimagines success, moving away from just frantic activity towards meaning, purpose, and living by your values.
Okay.
A big part of this is shifting from what the book calls a scarcity mindset.
Right, the idea that there's never enough.
Exactly. Never enough time, resources, opportunities,
Hmm.
always competing.
Hmm.
Hustle culture really feeds on that fear.
It does.
The shift is towards an abundance mindset, believing there is enough, seeing possibilities,
Yeah.
valuing collaboration over just competition, practicing gratitude. It fosters a much more optimistic, resilient outlook.
An abundance mindset. That sounds great, but it can feel kind of countercultural, can it? Especially when things feel competitive. How does she suggest we actually make that shift?
Well, she argues the scarcity view is often a self-fulfilling trap. You expect scarcity, you act accordingly, you create scarcity.
Mm,
To embrace abundance, she suggests starting small, like consciously noticing opportunities for collaboration instead of just competition, practicing gratitude daily for what you do have. It retrains your brain, essentially.
And a really key piece of this you mentioned is decoupling our self-worth from how productive we are. The book says we're human beings, not human doings.
Yes, that's such a powerful line.
It really is. But wow, that's a tough one to untangle, isn't it? So many of us tie our identity to what we achieve, what we produce. How do we even begin to separate those?
It might be the most radical part of the whole idea, honestly. Because when you do manage to separate your inherent worth from your output, it completely changes the game.
How so?
Suddenly, self-care isn't a luxury you earn after burning yourself out. It becomes foundational. It's the basis for being able to contribute sustainably over the long haul.
Okay, so rest isn't lazy, it's necessary.
Precisely. The anti-hustle mindset sees rest as essential. Self-care is non-negotiable, not selfish. Remember that lovely John Lubbock quote, "Rest is not idleness, and to lie sometimes on the grass under trees on a summer's day is by no means a waste of time."
I like that.
And Reece gives practical ways to build this in, prioritizing sleep, like really protecting it, eating nutritious food, scheduling exercise, getting outside in nature, mindfulness, meditation, yoga, embedding these into your routine, not just wishing you had time for them.
So as you're listening to this, maybe just pause for a second. How has hustle culture maybe impacted your sense of worth? Or your well-being? What does real success look like for you if you strip away the outside noise? And maybe what's one small anti-hustle step you could take even today to prioritize yourself? The book even talks about doing a hustle culture detox or a burnout recovery plan. Pretty transformative stuff. Okay, so once we start making that mindset shift, which is huge in itself, the next question tackles is how do you actually build this different reality? How do you design an anti-hustle life?
Yeah, this is where it gets really practical.
Yeah.
It starts with getting crystal clear on your core values.
Values, like honesty, integrity.
Yes, those kinds of things.
Mm.
The principles that genuinely guide your choices, your non-negotiables,
Yeah.
your internal compass, basically. And alongside that, identifying your passions.
The things that light you up.
Exactly. The activities where you lose track of time that bring you real joy and satisfaction. There's that great Ralph Waldo Emerson quote. "The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be."
Mm.
It's about being intentional, actively creating the life you want, not just letting it happen to you.
And knowing those values and passions then helps you set goals that actually mean something, right? The book mentions the SMART framework specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, which many people know, but she puts a different spin on it.
She totally does. The relevant part isn't just relevant to your job or some external metric.
Mm.
It has to be relevant to your anti-hustle values, to the life you're consciously trying to build. That way your productivity actually serves your well-being, not the other way around.
That makes so much sense.
And to keep those goals visible, she talks about vision boards.
Ah, vision boards, more than just cutting and pasting pictures.
Much more. It's about creating a tangible, visual reminder of your dreams, your values-aligned goals. It acts like a map to your ideal life, keeping you connected to what you truly desire, especially when things get busy or tough.
Okay, so this isn't about abandoning productivity altogether. It's about finding a mindful way to be productive. I love that Stephen Covey quote you mentioned earlier. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities.
Yes, that perfectly captures it. Working smarter, not harder. Being present in what you're doing. Focusing your energy where it truly matters.
Which leads into things like deep work.
Exactly. Cal Newport's concept of deep work, that focused, distraction-free concentration on challenging tasks. Reece really emphasizes this, not just as a productivity hack, but as a way to preserve your energy.
How does that work?
By focusing intensely on high-value work, you achieve more with less mental scatteredness, less drain. It directly counters that constant low-level exhaustion from multitasking and endless distractions.
Right. The book calls distractions productivity killers, creativity crushers, and well-being saboteurs. That's strong language.
It is, and research backs it up. Constant multitasking can apparently even lower your effective IQ. So creating an environment where you can focus, being mindful of your digital habits, that becomes really crucial.
So, okay, you're doing deep work, managing distractions. How does Reece suggest structuring the whole day around this anti-hustle idea?
It's about crafting a daily routine that actively supports your well-being and creativity. Maybe starting the day with intention, a few minutes of quiet perhaps instead of grabbing your phone immediately. Prioritizing your most important, demanding tasks for when your energy is naturally highest. For some, that's morning. For others, maybe afternoon.
Knowing your own rhythm.
Exactly. And this is key, actually. Scheduling time for rest and recovery. Treating downtime with the same seriousness as a work meeting. It needs to be planned in.
So thinking about your own day right now, when do you feel most productive? What are your biggest energy drainers or distractions? Would you be up for trying something like a deep work experiment for a week? Or maybe a digital detox challenge like the book suggests? Just to see how it feels.
All right, so as we start living more intentionally, designing our days, this naturally affects how we interact with other people, right?
Yeah.
And how we handle challenges. What does the book say about that?
It leads straight into the idea of boundaries, and specifically the courage it takes to set healthy boundaries.
Courage. That's an interesting word for it.
Yeah, Brene Brown talks about this too. She says, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others.
Reece echoes this. She describes boundaries not as walls to keep people out, but as fences that protect your inner garden. They safeguard your energy, your emotional capacity, your time, preventing burnout and resentment. They're really acts of self-preservation.
And a huge part of that, I guess, is learning how to say no, which in our always-on hustle culture that feels almost revolutionary, it's often easier to just say yes.
It absolutely is.
That's
Saying yes can feel like the path of least resistance or like you're being a team player.
right. But Reese frames saying no as an affirmation of yourself, not necessarily a rejection of the other person. But how do you actually do that gracefully without burning bridges?
That's the tricky part, isn't it? The book offers some good tips. Be clear, direct, but always respectful. You don't need long, elaborate excuses.
Okay.
Express gratitude for the offer or request. Briefly state your reason for declining if appropriate, but don't over-apologize. Maybe suggest an alternative if you can, another time, another person. The core idea is protecting your time and energy because they are finite resources. She suggests actually tracking where your time and energy go for a week. It can be really eye-opening. Then you can make more intentional choices about what depletes you and what nourishes you.
And then there's the elusive work-life balance. We often think of it as this perfect 50-50 split, don't we?
We do, like a perfectly balanced scale.
Oh.
But the book argues that's mostly a myth, and chasing it can be stressful in itself.
So what's the alternative?
A more fluid, dynamic approach. Thinking about integration rather than strict separation. Finding a rhythm that works for you, that allows you to thrive in different areas of your life. Recognizing that the balance might shift day to day or season to season.
More like a dance than a static balance.
Exactly. And that flexibility ties into cultivating resilience and adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
The book calls these essential survival skills today. There's that great Robert Jordan quote. The oak fought the wind and was broken. The willow bent when it must and survived.
Being like the willow, bending, not breaking.
Right. Which also means changing how we view setbacks. Instead of seeing them as failures, reframing them as opportunities to learn and grow.
That requires self-compassion, doesn't it? Being kind to yourself when things go wrong.
Absolutely. And having a strong support network helps immensely with bouncing back. Hustle culture often sells this illusion of control, that if you just work hard enough, everything will go according to plan.
Which is rarely true.
Right. Life throws curveballs. The anti-hustle approach isn't about rigid control. It's about seeing change and uncertainty as potential catalysts for growth, for creativity, for new directions, approaching the unknown with curiosity, not just fear.
So for you listening, think about, where do boundaries feel difficult for you? What's your go-to reaction when things don't go as planned? Could you try a boundary mapping exercise the book mentions, or maybe even just practice saying no to one small thing this week, a no practice? Okay, this leads us to something really empowering. Focusing on your strengths and building the right kind of support system. Because let's face it, we spend a lot of energy trying to fix what we think is wrong with us.
We really do. And the book argues that leveraging your strengths is just a much more effective and fulfilling way to operate. Think of Theodore Roosevelt. Do what you can with what you have where you are. Focus your energy on what you naturally do well.
That makes sense. Less friction, more impact. But how do you even know what your strengths are? Sometimes they're so natural we don't even see them.
That's true. Reece suggests a few ways. Pay attention to what activities feel easy or energizing for you. Reflect on past successes. What skills were you using? Ask trusted friends or colleagues for feedback. Or you could use formal assessments like Myers-Briggs or StrengthsFinder. Those can offer insights too.
And once you know them,
You play to them. Align your work, your projects, even your hobbies with those natural talents. That's where you find flow, that state of being completely absorbed and effective. It also means being willing to delegate tasks that drain you or don't use your strengths, and collaborating with people whose skills complement yours.
which brings us to the network part. Success rarely happens in isolation, does it? Helen Keller said it beautifully. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much.
Absolutely. Building a supportive network isn't just nice to have, it's crucial. Cultivating relationships with people who genuinely uplift you, who challenge you constructively, who inspire you.
And being mindful of the opposite, too.
Definitely. The book really highlights the impact of who you surround yourself with. Seeking out positive influences, people who are optimistic, supportive, who boost your mood, and consciously limiting exposure to negativity or people who consistently drain your energy.
It also talks about mentors and role models.
Yes. Finding mentors, those trusted guides who offer support but also challenge you to grow, and identifying role models, people who embody qualities or achievements you aspire to. They can really light the way.
And finally, finding your community, your tribe, people on a similar path.
Right. Whether it's online or local, finding like-minded people who understand the anti-hustle journey provides incredible support, encouragement, and that shared sense of purpose. You don't have to feel alone in pushing back against the dominant culture.
So a moment for reflection for you. What are those things that come naturally to you? Your potential strengths. Who in your life truly lifts you up? Maybe consider doing a quick strengths inventory for yourself, or perhaps making an effort to connect with a potential community this week, a community building challenge.
Okay, as we start to wrap up this deep dive, let's talk about making this anti-hustle approach stick. How do you sustain it? And what about the bigger picture, the legacy you create?
A huge piece of sustaining it is gratitude. The book emphasizes it as a powerful antidote to that feeling of never enough that hustle culture breeds. Melody Beattie said, "Gratitude turns what we have into enough."
That's powerful. And there's science behind it too. Practicing gratitude actually releases feel-good brain chemicals like dopamine and serotonin, lowers stress, improves sleep, strengthens relationships. It fundamentally shifts your perspective towards abundance.
And related to that, the idea of tracking accomplishments, not in a competitive way, but differently.
Exactly. It's not about comparing yourself or needing huge wins constantly. It's about noticing and acknowledging the small victories, the incremental progress, the daily efforts. This builds self-awareness, helps you celebrate milestones, however small, and keeps motivation high. It counters that all-or-nothing thinking.
And rewarding yourself along the way.
Yes, rewards are like essential threads weaving motivation and joy into the process. But the key is choosing healthy, sustainable rewards that genuinely resonate with you and align with your anti-hustle values. Not necessarily just material things, but experiences, rest, connection.
But even with gratitude and celebrating wins, that inner critic, that self-doubt, it can still show up, can't it? Shakespeare called doubts traitors that make us lose what we might win by fearing to try.
Oh, absolutely. It's a universal human experience. The book dives into this, explaining how self-doubt often grows from old messages or limiting beliefs like weeds in the garden of our mind.
So how do you pull out those weeds?
You learn to identify them first. Notice the negative self-talk.
Yeah.
Then you challenge them. Ask, is this belief really true? Where did it come from? And then consciously replace it with an empowering truth. Affirmations like, I am capable, I am worthy, I am learning, can be really helpful here.
And self-compassion comes into play again.
Massively. Reece calls it a radical act of self-love. Treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and patience you'd offer a good friend who's struggling. Acknowledging that imperfection is just part of being human, not a personal failing.
It's not about letting yourself off the hook, but about being supportive of yourself.
Exactly. And from that foundation, you build genuine confidence and self-efficacy. The book talks about mastery experiences, achieving things, even small things, that feel challenging. Each success, no matter the size, builds your belief in your ability to handle things. Positive self-talk reinforces this too. And eventually, this whole journey encourages you to think beyond just your own goals, to consider your legacy.
Legacy. That sounds big.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be monumental in a conventional sense. Emerson had that quote, "The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well."
Making a difference in whatever way feels right for you.
Precisely. Leaving a positive impact can take so many forms. Volunteering, mentoring others, supporting causes you believe in, creating work that inspires, or simply living your anti-hustle life authentically and sharing your journey. That in itself can inspire others and contribute to a broader cultural shift.
So maybe think about, what are those common self-doubts that tend to trip you up? And looking bigger picture, what kind of impact, what kind of difference do you hope to make? Could you try keeping a gratitude jar or maybe a self-doubt journal to work through those limiting beliefs? Or even do some legacy visioning like the book suggests?
Wow. We started this deep dive talking about that feeling of exhaustion, feeling trapped by hustle culture. But looking at Christine Reece's work, we've really explored a whole different way to approach success, work, and life itself. It's moved from the relentless grind to mindful purpose, setting boundaries, building connections. It really feels like a blueprint for living with intention, rather than just constantly doing.
Yeah.
The book leaves you feeling that this anti-hustle dream isn't a destination, but more like an ever-evolving dance of self-discovery, growth, and contribution. A life lived with purpose, connected to who you really are.
It really does. So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. Considering everything we've unpacked today from Reese's guide, what's maybe one hustle trap, one specific habit or belief that you feel ready to deliberately release from your life starting now? And what new anti-hustle practice could you consciously cultivate in its place to start painting your own unique masterpiece of a truly fulfilling and sustainable life?